Hi. Tonight we're going to talk about bowing and smiling to suffering. Everywhere in the world, people are suffering, so we need to acknowledge suffering in ourselves so we can deal with other people's suffering. We learn from our pain so we can learn compassion and to understand the nature of distress and hardship. Suffering is not our enemy because we are our worst enemy. We cling, grab onto suffering, and attach ourselves to it so we can wallow in our suffering, which puts our spiritual journey on hold. Suffering is a teacher that speaks through our consciousness, telling us to make things better and not to harm, to care for others, and not to hate, but to develop something without damage. Suffering shows us what we are attached to, so we can loosen up our grip and enjoy them, whatever it is, without pain. Khalil Gibran said, "Our suffering have emerged the strongest, out of suffering have emerged the strongest souls. The most massive characters are seared with scars." Rumi said, "The wound is the place where the light enters." Paul said in Romans 5:3-4, "We rejoice in our suffering, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope." We suffer the most in our thoughts, our memory and imagination, and the medicine is within, so we need to sit back and observe them, breathe, observe our thoughts, and let them pass. This is being present in the moment, because we can't suffer the past. That is gone, and we can't suffer the future, because it does not exist. In this way, we find meaning and purpose in our suffering, and it vanishes, because we see that it is not necessary or essential to live. Most suffering comes from burning desires that turn to addictions that we lose control of and can't satisfy. What occurs and comes about in our life does not cause us to suffer. It is what our mind thinks about it. And those thoughts cause us suffering. When we love and it hurts, we need to love deeper so the pain dissolves because we love more, similar to a caterpillar that thinks it ends in a cocoon, but then learns to fly. Buddha said, "Suffering is not holding you, you are holding suffering." To understand and acknowledge suffering is to work with it, change with it, and then it becomes more difficult to suffer than to change, so we tend to transform beyond it. We suffer more with our mind and imagination than just facing reality. So the trick is to let life be as it is and dive deep within to find meaning in it. Spiritual experiences are natural and a part of life, such as experiencing a higher consciousness beyond time and space, and it is a healthy way to go beyond suffering. Many people understand the spiritual high and incorporate it into their life as a way to have a healthy mind. Prema Chodron says, "The next time you lose heart and you can't bear to experience what you're feeling, you might recall this instruction. Change the way you see it and lean in. Instead of blaming our discomfort on outer circumstances or on our weaknesses, we can choose to stay present and awake to our experience, not rejecting it, not grasping it, and not buying the stories that we relentlessly tell ourselves." This is priceless advice that addresses the true cause of suffering, yours, mine, and that of all beings, living beings. Thich Nhat Hanh said, "Everything, including love, hate, and suffering, needs food to continue. If suffering continues, it's because we keep feeding our suffering." Eckhart Tolle says, For most people, their spiritual teacher is their suffering, because eventually the suffering brings about awakening. Suffering causes us eventually to look within, so we can stop it, because those that look outside desire and want more, so experience dissatisfaction, while those that look within awaken from their suffering. This is usually labeled a mystical or spiritual experience, a phenomena that researchers evaluate as a positive psychological quality. It increases openness, so it is easier to change and to have a life-changing experience that is important in life. We don't have to stop thinking, but we need to be aware of the thoughts that we are thinking. Those in consciousness are aware of their thoughts, because everything appears within it. That is internal and external. In the state of being aware, we observe suffering, not as something that is untrue or to be afraid of, but something that is misleading us away from the consciousness within. Consciousness, or God, is in all men, but the problem is that not everyone is aware of it, and are not awakened to consciousness, so we suffer. Leonardo da Vinci said, "The greatest deception men suffer is from their own opinions." Ramakrishna said, "God is in all men, but all men are not in God." That is why we suffer. Eckhart Tolle says, "In today's rush, we all think too much, see too much, and want too much, and forget about the joy of just being." Children enjoy life more than adults, because they don't worry or rush as they live in the moment, so they are the teachers that can show us mindfulness and being present. We teach them to be busy, so unfortunately when they grow up, they suffer the same way we do. We are not here to suffer, to pay bills, and to just exist, but to enjoy the present. Yesterday is past, tomorrow never comes, so we need to enjoy life now. We can enjoy life while it is happening if we stop stressing and taking things personally. Life is to be enjoyed slowly, day by day, not something to suffer and to be endurance, but enjoyed as it comes. Don't wait for something to happen. Enjoy life now, the good and the bad, while it is happening. And it is all an adventure that is full of surprises. Everyone suffers in our own prison cell of duality, but some cells have a window that shows non-duality. So being the jailer and the prisoner, we can find the window, open that window, and take a vacation when we need it. Thich Nhat Hanh said, "People have a hard time letting go of their suffering out of fear of the unknown. They prefer suffering that is familiar." Willie Nelson says, "We create our own unhappiness. The purpose of suffering is to help us understand we are the ones who cause it." Osho says the same thing. Actually, it's the same thing Buddha said too. Suffering is not holding you, you are holding suffering. And I like Tennessee Williams' quote. He said, "Don't look forward to the day you stop suffering, because when it comes, you'll know you're dead." Thank you.